The following program is from NET.
To see him. You just keep leaning and leaning and leaning. Get the off my back, man! I'm clean, man. Look, I'm clean. There's nothing there. Look! When I get off, man, I will throw a not-your-bone nigger fit on you, understand? Leave! Split! Leave, mother!
Van Peebles himself said at the beginning of the movie, this is starring the black community. Well, then, so I feel as though, if you're going to go around and say that a movie is starring the black community, then the community has a right to, to comment about this and tell you, that you're not going to use us. Like, you're going to make your own thing, that's fine, but do it that way, but don't try to bring us all, drag us all into it. And you can't have, you got to have it one way or the other. This is my movie. Fine, I make it the way I want, then okay, then it's starring me and my friends, but don't say it's starring the black community.
I think it's the best black film I've ever seen. I think it's the best black film ever produced in the United States.
But we feel that the only purpose for Sweetback is, I think as I indicated earlier, to titillate, to amuse, and to stimulate in a rather perverse and vulgar way. To stimulate, those carnal senses, particular to skin flicks, particular to stag films, particular to girly magazines. In short, we think Van Peebles is a hustler.
I'd be very surprised if everybody agreed on anything. However, I think it's a very racist point of view for a person to say, well, I'm black and I don't agree with the film, therefore the film is in disagreement with black people. I think we're then falling into the same bag of the man. That is, all black people think alike. I think all black people do think alike by their oppression, only one way, that they do want the oppressor eliminated. After the acts of sex are finished, we do see Sweetback, the last time he resorts, the next to the last time he resorts, he uses the only tool that he has at his hand at that time that he knows how to do, as a tool for his own liberation, no longer as a tool for gratification.
Sweetback.
Brother, just keep the faith in Beetle. Old Beetle gonna bring you through. Cause this is just a skirmish. You know how to damn good, baby. But you keep the faith in me, and you my man. You my favorite man. Can you take it, baby?
I don't know where Sweetback is. Come on, boy, talk!
Yes, the good day, fairy godmother. Why, didn't you know that all good dates had fairy godmothers?
Every dollar we make, the Guineas get 20, the police get 40, and Goldbergs get 50. Anybody can tell you that don't add up to $1. That adds up to $1.10.
You offer pretty good news to me, slapping up on some white cops. Yes, indeed. I'm gonna say a black Ave Maria for you.
What's happening on the coast? Man, I don't know. I haven't been to the coast in so long. I can tell you what's happening here. Last night, man, I had me some okra gumbo.
Is that right?
Some aretha, and, some, well, anyway.
Yeah. I haven't caught your flick yet.
Is it supposed to be revolutionary? Is it relevant, et cetera, and so forth? What kind of feelings you got about that?
Well, man, I got very positive feelings about it. You dig? It seems that our people have not had the courage, for all their loud talking toward this film, to attack the white man. And if they can get themselves together to attack me, it's a very uncomfortable position in the short range. But if this is what it takes to get the niggas' minds working out of sight. Now, I disagree 1,000% on their attack, and I question, you know, their motives.
So Kuumba Workshop doesn't think that Van Peebles is a serious artist?
Not at all. We think he is an exploitive artist. We think that he made a skin flick just for that purpose, to hustle black people. But let me say one other thing in that connection. One of the reasons why the workshop is so concerned and why we are so flagrantly angry is because we see a trend developing in Hollywood, a trend which seems to say to black people that Hollywood is going to make a lot of films directed at black people all over the country, but they aren't going to be films with a serious message about the black condition. They're going to be films with three elements, basically. One, they're going to have black folks on screen. Two, they're going to have lots of sex in them. And three, they'll probably have violence in them. And that as long as we have films with those three elements, then black people will be satisfied, that their appetites will be satiated. And the Kuumba Workshop wants to say in the clearest, most unmistakable terms that black people have to reject those kinds of films.
I don't think a film that explores the way in which people in black communities can help a fugitive, which is what Sweetback actually does. I mean, once he has defined for himself, once in the film he defines his relationship to the community, it is always to the community that he turns for assistance. In some instances, he turns to women to help him. He turns, in one instance, to a woman to help him get his handcuffs off. In another instance, interestingly enough, a group of Mexican-American brothers who are on their way to the grape yards or grape growing area, help him get closer to the border, help him to get further away from the man. The minister that he meets or he encounters helps him in a sort of left-handed way by warning him, by telling him that what you have done by helping this young man, the young man that he helps in the film, what you've done by that act is bring the man down on your neck. You know, so at least Sweetback is now aware at that point that the man is after him for a particular reason. He's not just chasing him because he's a stud in a sex show. He becomes at that point in the film a political fugitive, a man who is on the run because he has assisted a young brother who is obviously, or we're led to believe, is into a political action.
I have been constantly criticizing things like The Liberation of Lord Byron Jones and The Great White Hope and The Landlord and all these kind of movies, you know, which show the black woman, you know, as some kind of, you know, as a sex object and nothing else. And I think that Sweetbacks, I personally don't think a white man would have made a movie like Sweetbacks in 1970. You know, the outcry would have been so great had a white man made that, you know, made that film. It left everything else exactly the way it is now and had been made by a white. I think that would have been an outcry from the black community, you know, that would have, you know, just overwhelmed them. I don't think a black, let's say a Roy Wilkins, could have made Sweetbacks without an outcry, you know, from the community. I think that Sweetbacks I might consider it a personal, you know, testament, you know, of the director and writer. But I didn't see anything in the film which let's say compares with a movie like Battle of Algiers, which was a revolutionary movie about how the Algerian people were revolutionized, you know, by the vanguard of the Algerian Revolution. People like Sweetbacks, they got rid of, you know, because the pimps, you know, the whores, you know, they went to them and told them, you either change, you know, or they didn't wait for the cops or for the oppressive forces to, you know, to change, and they told them themselves that you have to change. So I don't see how the term revolutionary can in any way, you know, sense or form be used for that movie, except if you're going to say that it was revolutionary and that it, you know, in the way it portrayed the black, it went even further in portraying the black woman, you know, as sex object than any other movie that I've ever seen.
Let's say this. if the community that exists in Sweetback actually existed, Angela Davis and Ruchell McGee probably wouldn't be in jail now, because the community would have moved them through the country and out of the United States, or would have hidden them somewhere where the police couldn't get at them. And I think that's part of what Melvin is trying to say. When a brother comes to recognize, as Sweetback does, that it is to the community he has to turn in times of stress, not outside the community, not to forces outside the community which he assumes will help him. Because the community, I think Melvin is saying, will help you.
The position paper of the Coomber Workshop says that Van Peebles violates every principle of black art. Now, what are some of the principles of black art?
One of the essential principles of black art is that the art must be functional. It must be useful in some way. The person, after he views black art, should not be the same person that he was before he saw it or heard it or read it. If he is the same purpose, then the art has failed in one crucial sense, and that it didn't do anything for the person. Black art must do something for people, and we feel that Sweetback does not do anything for black people, except to maybe titillate them, those who get some kind of pleasure out of seeing raw sex exhibited. Secondly, it accepts the white principle of associating degradation with blackness.
Actually, the people who were putting down, one of the things is the pornography in the film, the supposed pornography in the film. The film, I can only accuse them then of not having really goodwill. That is, the film is about exploitation. It's not an exploitive film. It's about the tools of exploitation, even our own tools of exploitation. And the hero, Sweetback, begins as an exploitive tool. However, to complain about Sweetback's final function as an exploitive tool and exalting it is not correct. I mean, it's not really working within the confines of the film. We see Sweetback said at the first, when he does his first revolutionary act, which is almost an instinctive act where he slays the first two policemen. He retrogresses because the young brother says to him, he says, "What do we do now?" And he says, "Where do you get that we?" Well, that shows that he has not yet gotten the sense of community. However, through his eyes, seeing what he was actually doing. And these people are shown, first they say, well, there are no positive images. I don't intend to make a pusher, a pimp, a prostitute, a positive image. That was not my intention at all, to make them a positive image. That's why you do not have a positive image.
Why did you deal with prostitutes?
Well, I feel that that's a very legitimate aspect of our life that has to be dealt with. For example, everyone applauded in Battle of Algiers when one of the first steps was the guy where he came from, the hero in Battle of Algiers. He was just a hustler like Sweetback at the very beginning. This great hate. I mean, this Pandora's box about pimps, but this is where a large amount of our people do exist. This is symbolic existing as exploitive tools of the community, which forces us into this degradation. Brother Malcolm started off where? I mean, we're ignoring a lot of the very salient facts of history, man. I mean, we're saying, well, he starts off great. It would have been one thing to have a brother who speaks Swahili and has already had a political conscience, but I do not think that he represents the overwhelming majority of black people.
The movie is highly successful financially, and it is financially successful because black people are the ones who are paying to see it.
I don't know whether that's a very, very good criteria for the relevancy of a movie because, Tarzan was always very successful in the black community. And the liberation of Lord Byron Jones, and and all these movies which deal, I think black people look upon movies as they don't really understand. I think black people look upon movies as just a place to go for entertainment. Movies are a very, very important feature in creating images. It has been one of America's weapons in destroying the image of of black people, and I think that only as we become more politically aware on many, many levels, that, that we begin to understand how movies can be used against us. Sweetbacks is not just going to be shown in the United States, it's going all around the world, and all that symbolism, that they talk about. I mean, I feel as though if Van Peebles was making a political statement, these things should have been explicit, If the sex act was not really a sex act but something else, then why didn't he show the something else? Why use it as the symbol of the sex act? He wanted to show a baptism of a boy into manhood.
Well, if that is what he's saying, then what, in your estimation, is the reason he didn't say it directly?
Well, because I think he's a filmmaker, and I don't think filmmakers ever say anything directly, because films would probably run 10 or 15 minutes then. They'd all be short subjects. The fact is that he has chosen to explore, in the process of making this statement, he has chosen to explore a segment of black life in this country. And I say, to filmmakers who have said to me that they hate the film, I say that your responsibility is to make a film that shows another part of the black experience. This is just, Sweetback is one part of an experience that we incidentally know is true. Let me give you an example. I recently saw a film called Shaft. The point is that Shaft is about someone who does not exist, man, who has never existed. There is no John Shaft. There is no black private eye who's running around, saving people from the mafia, or is diving through windows with Molotov cars. That doesn't happen. So what we are asked to do is accept something that is unreal as an extension or as a register of what our culture is actually all about, as opposed to accepting one portion of that culture. And Melvin Van Peebles does not suggest that this is the entire story of black people. He is suggesting that this is one aspect of it.
All his women are degraded whores whose only role is to satiate his desire for ego gratification and for sexual satisfaction.
The assumption, or the statement has been made that the black woman appears in the film only as a prostitute. And I'd go back to what I talked about before, what we spoke about before, when I said that we have to start to deal with some new terminology, and we have to get away from terms like prostitution or pornography or obscenity or degradation, because those are terms that are used by people who oppress black people to describe certain conditions that certainly, and certainly shouldn't be used to describe a black condition. If a woman, first of all, prostitution is the exchange of sexual favors for money. Now, that never happens in Sweetback. There is never any instance where a woman is selling herself to anybody. We don't see that happen. We make the assumption, incidentally, that the women who appear in the beginning of the film are prostitutes. It's never stated that they are. It's a group of women feeding a little boy. But everyone jumps to the conclusion that simply because they're in house coats or in bathrobes, that they're prostitutes, because they're home in the daytime. Does that mean that the black woman who's not pursuing a master's degree in sociology is a prostitute? Does that mean that a woman who's not casting bullets for the revolution is a prostitute? Or a woman who is not married to, to the 28th nigger vice president of some advertising firm is a prostitute? It means simply that you have women who do different kinds of things in order to survive.
Now, the supporters claim that the opening scene, which shows Van Peebles as a little boy in sex relations with a prostitute, is a scene which is tender and loving and which shows how black men are initiated into manhood through sex. Well, that's a lot of hogwash. There's a lot of pure bullcrap. There is no such thing. There's nothing in the black tradition anyplace, in Africa, or in America, or throughout the Western world, or any other place on this globe, that proves that black people have ever used sex to initiate their men or their women either into manhood or womanhood. There's no such thing. It's just absolutely not provable based on the black experience.
What annoys me about what people have said about it, we know perfectly, Tony, you and I know damn well that there are guys who have had sexual encounters at 13, at 12, at 11, and speak very proudly of it. It's a badge of honor. But the fact that someone confronts that particular reality in a film suddenly causes us to become, as Larry Neal said recently, the new Puritans, or the new Victorians. Sex is a fact of life, man. We know that. And people who look at that film, I'm sure many people saw themselves. I know, in fact, one brother I talked to about the film, only the week before, had been telling me in a completely different context that he at 8 had had his first sexual experience. He was very proud of that. But he was outraged that Melvin Van Peebles should show in a film a boy doing precisely the thing that he was so proud of only 7 days before.
Has the criticism in any way caused you to really reconsider whether you're right or not? Do you think it'll modify your philosophy in terms of future films?
No, not a bit. What it has done is saddened me with the, it showed me the depth of the man's colonization. Well, as I was pointing out, niggers came to debate with me with guns. I'll be very happy if, and pleasantly surprised, if they go to debate with guns with the white major studios who have been fostering John Wayne on them, who makes no mistake about it, who tells you where he's at as concerning the blood. But he plays in the black community and never a word is said, and there ain't no meetings held. The moderates disguising under militants in both parts of the American racist society have banded together. The white liberals and the black elitists have banded together to try and keep the film from the nitty-gritty mass of the people. Perhaps they realize that the nitty-gritty mass of the people who will make the revolution, they may not be able to make the revolution in the terms that will look too pretty in the history books of tomorrow.
Do you feel that there will be any benefit to the black community as a result of the controversy about Sweetback?
Oh, man, no doubt. I mean, it's already had an enormous, very positive thing. Even their disagreeing with me has forced them into a certain awareness of the black community. We have been exploited. If Sweetback is an exploited film, as some people seem to think it is, and this can certainly not be considered the first of an exploited film, but niggers have never had enough courage to come down before. If they can only have their courage because I'm a black man, and they don't feel that massa image daring them not to come down on a white man. You know, as I said, cats would come to discuss at meetings for people who agreed with me with rifles. You can't get them to get a rifle and go down on Fifth Avenue and talk to none of them white folks that way. Now, if this rubs off, and they do, God bless it. If that has to be the unpleasant personal sacrifice, well, you know, Christ was nothing but a carpenter in his own hometown anyhow. In the revolution, we do not know how it's going to come. We'll all have to work toward it and bear with one another. You dig where I'm coming from?
Well, some of your critics say that one of the things that they don't like, you know, particularly about...
Yeah, mm-hmm. Well, that may be a point of view, brother, you know. Yeah, okay, I'll see you later, huh?
Okay, brother. Easy now.
Yeah. Hey, girls! Mm-hmm.
Senator George McGovern, a declared presidential candidate, backed quickly away from his warm words about Senator Robert Byrd's suitability for the Supreme Court. He said, "I cannot accept a man who is mediocre or who is a racist or who is unethical." Only the day before, McGovern said that Byrd was, quote, "a man of enormous industry and personal pride. He would, quote, lend every effort to become a great justice." Senator Byrd has been a lawyer since 1963, but has no record of legal or judicial practice. Byrd admits that he was a member of the Ku Klux Klan during 1942 and 43, but he says he stopped paying dues after that. According to the New York Post, someone has turned up a letter he wrote in 1946 to the Imperial Wizard, in which he is quoted as saying, "I am a former Kleagle of the Ku Klux Klan in Raleigh County. The Klan is needed today as never before." A substantial number of white people are still clinging to gross stereotypes about blacks, and black animosities towards whites are hardening. This from a recently conducted Lou Harris poll. Blacks who agree with the statement, whites are really sorry slavery for blacks was abolished, has risen from 63 to 70% over the past year. Whites, for the most part, disclaim racism, according to the Harris poll, while at the same time accepting prejudicial stereotypes. An overwhelming 81% of blacks believe that most whites feel blacks are inferior, but only 21% of whites actually admitted that they did hold such views. Recently, a black Superior Court judge in Washington, D.C., Harry T. Alexander, dismissed a court case because a white policeman did not refer to a black woman complainant as Miss or Mrs. Now the Washington Court of Appeals plans to re-prosecute the case, an action usually reserved when a judge is found guilty of misconduct. Judge Alexander has previously complained of racial prejudice in court operations and accused the chief judge of planting a stool pigeon in his courtroom. Now Alexander faces a possible investigation. A letter signed White and Fed Up from Chicago states, after watching, I, 1, made 2 contributions for as much as I could afford to the Ku Klux Klan and the National States Rights Party. 2, bought 100 more rounds of .45 caliber shells and 100 more rounds of 12-gauge shotgun shells loaded with double-aught buckshot. 3, will visit a kennel this weekend to select a big, mean dog. I will train him on black dummies. P.S. Now, why don't you read this letter on your Black Journal program? For information on Black Journal, write for a free teach brochure to Black Journal, 10 Columbus Circle, New York. Are black people the victims of intentional or unintentional destruction? The issue of genocide will be discussed next week on Black Journal by John Williams, author of The Man Who Cried I Am, and Sam Yet, who wrote The Choice. Until next week.